Hello, everyone. We are coming up on the top of the hour at 2 o'clock here on the West Coast. It is February 28th, last day of February of 2025. It's lovely to see you. It's already getting warm. So I'm wearing an Aloha shirt today, which is short sleeve, and which I realize most Aloha shirts are short sleeve. We It's getting warmer here in already in Las Vegas. Now by warmer, I mean like it was 60, today. It wasn't 40 or 35. And I'm already looking forward to the summer. And then of course I'll be complaining about July. Talk to me and I won't be happy about the summer. But right now it's been a brief winter here in Las Vegas. We're warming up and it's beautiful, really beautiful here. So I have the best of both worlds. Many of you know that hi Josh. Um, Josh, who lives, by the way, in Phoenix, Arizona, which is even more of a heat hotspot than Las Vegas, which I didn't know was possible, but it is definitely warming up. And in Minnesota, it's even warmed up. It's in the 40s, 50s. I'll be going there tonight. So today we're talking about your vibration, and there's some things I want to talk about. And you know me, I transcend the right squarely in both camps of the woo-woo and the Western clinical kinds of things. I'm here at the clinic and had our meetings on Fridays that we do with the staff and with the students, graduate students, and things like that. And there's actually I'm going to offer a little bit of structure today because I know some of you love structure, and I'm a really good rambler, and I try to tie up all the loose ends as I talk. But today we're going to talk about the 5 pillars of raising your vibration, and there are 5 of them. Um, and this is by no means mutually exclusive, meaning there's lots of ways that you can raise your vibration. But what we talk about, and this is piggybacking on our talk about entities, demons, lions and tigers and bears, oh my. And what do we do to protect ourselves from being slimed? And I'm going to use a lot of euphemistic language. And I believe that everyone is intuitive, and I believe we all can wake up on the wrong side of the bed. We all can get grumpy and moody at times. And I really have made it my life's work to teach people how to manage themselves more effectively. So the spirit of this talk today really is about you. There are things in your environment and in your body that are beyond your direct control. Sorry, I've been on the planet for a while. I've been in a body for a while, and there are things that happen to us that feel as though they are not within our direct control, and they're not. And I'm going to actually go on a limb here, and I'm going to say that the majority of things that happen around us and to us, me, Moody, Kumu, Nan, Sensei, you're the paragon of peace. Josh knows me very well. I've known Josh for a long time. And yeah, even I can have my moments of grumpiness and impatience and like that. I think we're all human. Um, as a side note, there have been several spiritual leaders that I've met in my time, and I had the great fortune of meeting with the Dalai Lama, not individually, but he was doing a talk, and they asked the Dalai Lama. Just so you know, the Dalai Lama is the leader, the international or global leader of the Tibetan Buddhist religion or sect, or whatever you want to call it. And he giggles. I mean, he's hilarious, and he giggles most of the time. I've certainly never seen him be angry, but they asked him, uh, Mr. Lama, or Your Eminence, or Your Holiness, I think is what they call him. Do you ever get angry? And he just laughed. He goes, "Of course I get angry. It's part of the human condition to get angry and impatient and frustrated." And so even and then I have met with Daisaku Ikeda personally and individually and in small groups, who was the now late leader of the Soka Gakkai International, which was the Buddhist organization that I belong to. And he would always say that, oh yeah, he could be a real pistol. And I've actually seen him get really direct and very, as he would say, strict with his guidance with certain people. And so, we're all in this together. The beauty is that we really are, and that none of us, and the 4 noble truths of Buddhism, which is birth, old age, sickness, and death, are the great equalizers. My favorite thing, one of my favorite things, is to have celebrities have children. And when Ryan Reynolds had children or Emma Stone had children, and they start talking about their children. When I was at Nathan Lane's 50th birthday party years ago, I met with Jerry Seinfeld, who was there, and he had just been having children. That's what he did after he finished the show, is that he got married and he had a bunch of kids. And he found out I was a therapist and he just wanted to pick my brain about kids. And it was a lovely conversation, but they are the great equalizer. I mean, think about it. Elon Musk, right, who's in the press a lot these days, has kids. Donald Trump has kids. And if you've not had kids or a puppy or a 2-year-old, it's a thing. And it's some things that are, you that are not unique to, they're not unique to humans. I didn't mean to say that, but they are a collective shared experience that I don't care how much money you have, frankly. I don't care who you think you are. If you have a child and you're raising children, or you're raising a puppy, or you got a little kitten or something like that, they're really great equalizers. And I really do firmly believe that we are all in this together, and that what really binds us together as humans is our ability to navigate life's challenges. And so your vibration, and I'm just using that word to talk about um, how your life condition. The Buddhists call it the life condition. Your energy, how you feel about yourself, and the things that tend to knock you off center. Some of you have heard me tell the story about I studied Aikido in my 20s, and the master, the sensei, we called him sensei. He was an older Japanese man, and he just was like, he was in his 70s and looked like, I called him Mr. Miyagi. He thought that was funny, and he would just giggle. And one of the students in our class, a young man, it was a men's class, Aikido class, asked him if he'd ever gotten off center. And he laughed and he just said, "Well, of course, everyone gets off center. I just don't hang out there like some of you idiots." And so while we can't directly control what happens to us, we can directly control our behavior, our thinking, what we do, and how we react. And so, what I've noticed over the years isn't that I don't get triggered. I do. I get triggered probably every day. I just have mechanisms and practices. Now, certainly, I don't get triggered about the things I used to get triggered about. I also don't get triggered about as many things as I used to. But when I do get triggered, I have practices and disciplines and things to help ameliorate that. But to have an expectation that you are never going to get triggered, and that you're never going to allow another person to influence you, or that you're not going to ever have a reaction to things, I think is pretty unrealistic. And so today I want to talk about the 5 pillars, and these are things that I'm actually wrestling with right now. So, you know that I'm 65, and you know that I've had cancer, and I've been on a health journey, and I've lost over 100 pounds in the last couple of years, and I'm really happy. And I'm kind of at a precipice right now where I've been at the same weight now for over a year. And I'm just going to be disclosing, and I'm going to apply the structure of these 5 pillars into how you can take ownership for your vibration. And this isn't so much going to be about the psychic intuitive realm, like we've talked about before, or about entities or anything else. But what happens, just to piggyback on the entity conversation, entities enter those who are at a very low life condition. And so, if you do any research online at all about, you talked about Catholic, and now there are Catholic exorcists who are on YouTube, just so you know, there are. And so, if you want to, don't take it from me about exorcism or advanced deposition, you can look up Catholic exorcists, and there's a couple of priests who will talk openly on YouTube, on a podcast, about what an exorcism is, how they do it. And they don't do it online. They don't talk about the rite meaning RITE, the actual protocol, but it's a very rigorous, very structured activity, and it's a spiritual ritual, right? And so what's coming through now is that negativity, if you want to just use that as a term, is we are more susceptible to negativity. And you know this. When you are tired, when you are not firing on all cylinders, you are more sensitive. You may have an emotional meltdown, or a intermittent explosive episode, or road rage, or whatever, when you're not very well defended. And so I am not saying anything that is even remotely outlandish. I'm just using some words like vibration or your life condition to say that there are things you can address in your life to pay attention to. And I'm just going to use myself as an example because I am paying attention to these things now. I didn't so much in my 20s. I'm going to say the reason I got cancer, and you can disagree, was I didn't manage my physical body very well at all. I worked too much. I was working with too many. No, I'm not going to say that. I was working with a lot of really toxic people who, by definition, are mentally ill and homeless and all that kind of stuff. And so I didn't protect myself well enough over a period of decades so that now I'm not going to say my cancer was a demon, but that I let in, or my physical body just started breaking down. Behind my inability or unwillingness to actually take care of myself. So the first pillar, and I am meeting with a personal trainer tonight, is exercise. And one of the things that you can directly control is how you move your body. Now, I have exercised my whole life. I have been a student of yoga my entire life. I have lifted weights at times during my incarnation. I have run a marathon. I had completed a 50K marathon, which is a lot, felt like longer than 26 miles, um, in Europe, when I lived in Europe. And so I've had periods of my life where I've done a lot of exercise. I've talked also to people who have been very committed to exercise, then in their later years deal with injuries. And I've worked with professional athletes who deal with injuries. I've worked with bodybuilders. I've worked with baseball players, football players, hockey players, different golfers, different kinds of people who come to me for healing the mind after a particular injury. The physical body will heal, but then they'll still have some mental things going on. And I will tell you that the first pillar is exercise, and I'm committed to it. I've been now because of the injuries that I've had a ski accident and had injury. I've had 7 surgeries in the last few years. I am not the 22-year-old that's going to be lifting heavy weights. So I'm meeting with a trainer, just like when I did physical therapy or when I went to the ski. When I go to ski, I always take a lesson because I know that I am not what I was. And I know that when I meet with this trainer tonight, and he carefully chosen to work with me, knowing that I've had injuries, that I'm getting back into working out after a long period of hiatus. Now, what I have been doing in the last couple of years is walking and stretching. I told you when I was in New York, I walked 27,000 steps one day. The next day, I did the 27,000 steps, which is 14 miles, almost 14 miles in one day. I did those 2 days in a row. And I only know because I have this thing on my wrist that tracks my steps. So one day we did 10,000. The next day we did 10,000. The third day we did 27,000. The fourth day we did 27,000. The fifth day we did 7,000. And on that fifth day, my feet were sore. Now, I didn't have blisters or anything. I had nice shoes, but my feet were just sore. And I was just like, I can't do that. It's just, So exercise is the first pillar. I'm hiring someone and paying them uh, to help me do this. Now, I have fired trainers historically. I am a large man. I'm 6'2" these days. I used to be 6'3" before I shrunk, and I'm a large sized man. And I would have these small, younger, fit men who would live out their bodybuilder fantasies with me, and they would want me to get really, really big and lift really heavy weights and do deadlifts and all that sort of thing. And I would get very, very big very, very quickly. That wasn't necessarily my goal. And I remember I was working with a trainer here in Las Vegas years ago, many years ago, and I had had a back injury. And I'm just going to describe this to you. Some of you know workout, you know the gym really well. For those of you that don't, there are lots of different kinds of machines in a gym, in a modern gym today. So there's Reeboks makes this sort of, and I forget the name of it, so forgive me. If you know, if you put it, you want to put it in the comments, you can. But it's a decent, it's a stabilizing platform, and it's a thing you stand on that makes you use your muscles to stay stable. Well, he had me stand on that thing and then take I think 25-pound dumbbells, not 15s, not 10s, 25s, and in one in each hand. And he wanted me to do like this whole lifting, shrug, lift, military press kind of, out lat sort of thing. And I was scared. And I said to him, I said, that just seems really not, and this, I was probably in my 50s or 40, no, not even my 50s, and had back injuries and stuff. And I said, this just doesn't feel safe to me. But then he did what men do, and he said, come on, Don't be a pussy. Sorry, but that's what he said. Don't be a pussy. Get up there, do it, tough, rah, rah, drill sergeant, be a man, suck it up. Don't give me your excuses, which is kind of what I was paying him to do. Well, self-fulfilling prophecy, I had a big back spasm and I ended up on the floor. I fell, I dropped the weights, I fell on the floor, I had a back spasm, had to call 911. I had to go to the hospital. So that didn't go so well. Now, fast forward 20 years, I'm 65. I haven't lifted weights for a really long time for obvious reasons. I've done some resistance bands, but I've been really focused on the weight loss. I am clear that at this weight, so just to be transparent, I was 320. Now I'm 205. That's great. I'm very happy with that. And I want to get to 190. So that's not a horrible amount of weight, but I'm kind of a rah rah gung ho guy. I am going to get to 190 or 195. So I realized to lose that last 15 pounds, as we all know, is not going to happen on its own. And so I'm being very mindful of exercise. Now, the bottom line here around the pillars of health and your vibration is getting in nature, hiking, walking, moving, anything that for you is movement is going to raise your life condition. You may not feel motivated to do it, but um, you will feel better. And so this is for me, just like it is with you. So the first pillar really is exercise. And however you define that, I'm not going to be prescriptive here. I'm not a trainer. I'm certainly not a professional athlete of any kind or a trainer, but I'm hiring someone to help me make sure that I don't get hurt, that I can get my goals, and we're going to meet weekly until I get there. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, not surprisingly, is nutrition. I'm going to be transparent. In the last 2 years, I have been on one of the GLP-1 shots. I'm currently on Zepbound, 15 milligrams, and I used those along with Ozempic, and there's several of them. There's Wegovy, Ozempic, Mounjaro, Trulicity, Rybelsus. They're under a number of names, but you can um, research them. And there's some controversy, as is with anything. I'm going to tell you, this medicine has saved my life. And I'm just going to say this, not to be dramatic, but I met with my doctor a few months ago, like a couple months ago, and I shared this on Instagram or Facebook that on my chart, you know how the charts online, you have your medical record, and you go to the doctor and they're charting and they're doing their stuff on the computer. And this guy turned the screen to me. He says, "I want you to look at something." This is my urology. No, this is my primary care doctor. Primary care doctor. Because I want to show you something. And he showed me something. Now, he was the one when I walked in after 100 pounds. Remember, I don't see my doctor. I see him once a year, like once a year, once, not very often. And I had lost 100 pounds, and he just, took a double take. And he goes, "I can't." And I got on the scale, and they did the thing, the medical exam. And he goes, "I can't even believe it. You do not even look remotely like you did. This is so great." And that was 1 year ago. Now I've maintained this weight loss for a year so that I went back for the subsequent year follow up. It's in September or something. And he says, "I want to show you something." So he took the screen, the desktop computer screen, and he faced it to me. And there were these boxes, this whole, and I started looking at it, and it was like malignant neoplasm of the bladder cancer, pre-diabetes, type 2, it was all these different diagnoses. And he, with great fanfare, looked and he goes, "That's cured, that's cured, that's cured." And he went through 17 of them and said, "You don't have any." I mean, that was high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high heart rate, pre-diabetic, and on and on and on. And he just said that he did not know very much about these GLP-1 medicines, but that I had been so sick for so long after cancer. Now, during chemo, I lost like 30, 35 pounds, not the healthy way because I couldn't eat because I was so sick. And as soon as I stopped chemo, the weight came back and then some, right? So let's say I was 270, when I finished chemo, and I was to 320 or something, 50 pounds, just like that. And these medicines are miraculous. And I'm not going to get into a discussion about like them, don't like them, gee, they have side effects. Yes, they have side effects. Every medicine has side effects. Sorry, antidepressants have side effects. Psychiatric medications have side effects, and so on. The first year, was about weight loss and it was about getting used to the medicine. The second year was about getting used to the new body, buying new clothes, feeling like I could move, like I didn't need an airplane, what's it called? Seatbelt extender. Like I could get in. I rented a Toyota Corolla in Phoenix a couple weeks ago. 2 years ago, I could not have fit my big toe into a Toyota Corolla. I had to get a big SUV. So I'm saving money. I'm just not eating as much. Bottom line is that these medicines, in terms of chronic obesity management, are life changers. Just like my hip replacement was a game changer for me, these medicines are a game changer. This isn't a pitch for the medicines, but I will tell you, by the time I was 15, I was 500 pounds. You know, 500 pounds, like 497. My mom took me to a doctor. They had to use an agricultural scale, like for a veterinarian or an animal scale to weigh me because they didn't have a scale that could go up that high. And so, bottom line is nutrition. What I'm also focused on now, I haven't been obsessed about things like tracking and calories and macros and protein and all that sort of thing. But now I'm kind of ready to do the next level. So pillar number two is really what are you putting in your body? And how you can tell if you have really chronically bad, and I'm just going to be really straight with you. If you have chronically bad breath, chances are you're probably pretty toxic. If your feet smell really bad, chances are you're pretty toxic. If your bowel movements are infrequent and not very well, and that the smell is really overpowering, probably pretty toxic, and so on. If you have a lot of blemishes, if you have a lot of skin eruptions. And so when I say toxic, and again, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not here to give medical advice, but I'm just saying, get to know your body. What are you putting in it? I had an In-N-Out burger. Now, I'm saying this, watch your nutrition. I had an In-N-Out burger. I am not talking all or nothing. I went to In-N-Out in Phoenix. I was with Josh, and we tried to go to In-N-Out, and the line was around the block. It was so long. The following day, after I dropped him off, I found an In-N-Out burger. I hadn't had an In-N-Out burger in a year. One In-N-Out burger a year is not going to kill me. Went out to dinner last week. I had a glass of wine. Not going to kill me. It's fine. So I am promoting moderation, but I would have you look at what's the quality of the food you're ingesting, what's the quality of the water you're ingesting. Sorry, tap water in America isn't the greatest. You can get a Brita filter and filter that stuff out. And again, I'm not here to pitch brands. I know that there's a lot of YouTubers that are out there going, look at my use discount code Kumu, for that'd be kind of fun. Discount code Kumu for the Brita water filters and for the GLP-1. I'm not doing that here. But I'm just saying this is about you taking 100% responsibility and accountability for you, right? We have enough information out there. The information is there. Now, I have my partner Rick is also on Wegovy. He's not having a good time. He's lost weight. He's lost like 30 pounds. He looks great. And he's having pretty bad gastrointestinal side effects. The day or two after he gets the shot, he's pretty nauseous. It's not a deal breaker yet, and I'm encouraging him to hang in there. He didn't have that much weight to lose, really not compared to what I did. But I'm noticing that he's having a lot of nausea, a lot of gastrointestinal disturbances, which is a side effect. And I think we all have to make it our own. But take a look at what's the quality of your food. And I know this is interesting from a poverty perspective. And I don't really know why this is because I grew up in poverty. I grew up in the projects. And again, people say, you don't know projects. My projects were worse than your projects. Okay. Grew up in the 60s with a single parent. We weren't really ever on welfare, or get food stamps, but we were in federally subsidized housing. My mom, we were poor. I'm sorry. I'm not going to compete with you about how poor we were. But I, didn't know I was poor until I got to college. Um, It is, I think they've done studies where it's cheaper for a family to eat at McDonald's than it is to go to the grocery store, you know? And that's unfortunate. That to go to a grocery store to buy food, real food, decent food, and to prepare a meal is more expensive than it is to go get a Happy Meal for the kids or to get a Big Mac or something. And there's something not so great about that in America. You may not know this, but there are American brands that are banned in countries like Italy And there's certain things like Skittles and certain kinds of candies and certain kinds of things that just are they will not import them, and they will not import them, number 1, or number 2, they will have brands that are for sale in Germany or Switzerland or Italy or France, but they have to change the chemical composition because American candy, junk food, that kind of stuff is so I forget. Anyway, there's an oil that's really bad for you, and the UE labels. Now, I was never like that. I was just like I was too busy working, right, under the guise of being a success that I would not just. I remember. I mean, I'm here at the clinic right now. It's a beautiful day, and every day at lunch, at least 2 or 3 times a week, in order to get a break, I would take a break at noon, I'd get in my car, and I'd find a drive-through. There's a Carl's Jr. just down the road. There's a Jack in Box. There's Wendy's across the way. There's Los Tacos, great burritos. And every day, 3, 4 times a week, I was going to a drive-through because I could, and I was too busy to cook. I was too busy to eat something healthy. And of course, my weight was always, very, very heavy. And so pay attention. Pay attention to what you're eating, to what you're putting in your body. I am not right now obsessing. I showed you the if you look at the thumbnail for this video, it's me with aloe vera juice. My trainer wants me to drink aloe vera juice. I don't know why yet. I'm going to meet with him tonight and find out. But he's giving me pretty prescriptive things about aloe vera juice, this type of yogurt, organic berries, blah blah blah. And I'm going to be a good soldier. I'm a really good soldier when I'm on a program. And so, with this medicine, I don't have cravings. I'm not hungry. If anything, I just hardly eat anything at all. And so I'm going to be really purposeful and others. And you can follow me, and I'm going to, I'm going to track my progress with you guys. So nutrition is number 2. All I ask is you be proactive about what you're putting in your body. Number 3, sleep. I will tell you, in my work as a therapist, as a clinician, sleep is one of the biggest challenges that people face every day, all day long. And I'm meeting with a lot of veterans these days, but anyone with anxiety, with depression, PTSD, ADHD, substance use disorders, the gamut of mental health challenges, sleep is invariably one of the things that is impaired. Now, I heard an interesting historical anecdote that I'm going to share with you. Apparently, and the reason for this, I wake up in the middle of the night. I am of a certain age where I have to wake up to pee. I am not alone. I know that. I know that if you're a man, I think women too sometimes have to wake up to pee. This idea that I'm going to get 8 solid hours of deep REM sleep is a challenge, and it's a challenge for everyone. No, everyone. People I'm encountering, sleep is a universal thing. I'm going to talk about the sale for getting good sleep in a minute, but right now, did you know that in medieval times, no electricity, no, this is like the 1200s, 1300s, 1400s, it was absolutely protocol. And we'll talk about siestas in a minute. It was protocol that you go to bed at dusk. There's no, they had candles and they had fires and they had wood burning fireplaces and stoves and ovens and all that stuff in their homes, but it was absolutely normal in Europe during the Middle Ages, medieval times. You would go to bed at dusk, so the sun goes down, everybody's in bed. The animals are put away, right? You go to bed at dusk. That's what you do. You maybe have a meal, a small meal, and then about 2 or 3 in the morning, because in the summer it was cooler, you wake up, and after 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, you wake up and you do chores. Then you get the kids up and they do chores and they feed the animals because it's cooler. And you up for a couple of hours, then you go back to sleep about 3, 4 in the morning and you sleep till dawn. And that was the rhythm of human sleep throughout the ages. I'd never heard this before. Lately, that's been my pattern. And for a year or 2 since I've lost this weight, I'll sleep for 3 or 4 hours and I'm awake. I'm not stressed. I'm not worried. I just wake up. And so now, rather than argue, I get up, I pee. I know I'm going to get up to pee anyway. So I get up, I pee. Like last night, I got up 2, 3 in the morning, bought the trash cans in, put the new liners in the thing, put the dishes in the dishwasher, rub a dub dub, scrub the count. I don't know, I wasn't up for a half an hour, but then I went back into bed at 3:30 and slept till 6:30. And I feel fine today. I feel great today. The aggregate amount of sleep, 7, 8 hours, totally fine. And so stop beating yourself up. And I've talked to friends now. I work here in Las Vegas. And in Las Vegas, people do shift work. They work the casinos, they work hospitality, this is a 24-hour town. And I have had friends that say, well, they typically will sleep in two shifts. They'll do 3, 4 hours here, 3, 4 hours there. And it is not unusual. So we're talking about sleep. That you get enough sleep is important. And this is the subheadings under sleep. Not everybody needs the same amount of sleep. They say that that Donald Trump only sleeps 4 hours a night. Martha Stewart only sleeps 4 hours a night. That some of these high-powered people, I know my partner only sleeps 3 or 4 hours, and he's fine. I can't function on less than 7 or 8. I need to have 7 or 8, and if I don't get it, I will catch it up some of them. But you take 100% responsibility for your sleep, the quality of your sleep. I have people that don't say that they don't dream. Apparently, everyone dreams, you just don't remember them. That's what I'm hearing as the word on the street. But no matter, dreams, no dreams, the quality of your sleep is really important. We talk a lot about sleep hygiene. Are you putting the screens away? Are you turning off the computer? Are you sitting with TV until you pass out? Whatever you do, the sleep is really, really important, and it is the third pillar. It is the third pillar of absolutely taking responsibility for your life condition. If you are not sleeping for long periods of time, you're going to get sick. Your immune suppression. Now, understand that this video is very different than the entity video. I know that I can be super woo-woo and super out there. This is really core pragmatic stuff about you being healthy and being you taking 100% ownership for your life condition. Now, there's of course different kinds of sleep. There's REM sleep, there's deep sleep, there's different kinds of brainwave patterns that we keep uh, uh, track of. And if you have an Apple Watch or an Aura Ring, or I forget, there's lots of devices, a Fitbit or whatever, I think will track your sleep. My suggestion is don't obsess, but look at the quality of your sleep. Are you drinking a lot of water before you go to bed? So you have to get up and pee. Are you drinking a lot of caffeine after 5 or 6 p.m.? So that keeps you awake. I know people that are getting into I love coffee, I really do. And I know that I really shouldn't have any caffeine after 6, 7 p.m., that it's going to keep me awake. Now that didn't used to be the case. I worked in restaurants and hospitals for years and years and years. And I had a doctor once tell me that he had never saw me without a cup of coffee in my hand. It didn't matter what shift I was working, that I always had my cup of coffee. And so you get to decide, but take a look at your sleep. Take a look at how you're sleeping, the depth of your sleep. Now, many of you have creatures, and I use creatures to describe pets, children, spouses, family members. Another thing that's going on, God, what are they calling it? I'm going to forget the exact term. Something like a married divorce or something, or it's a funny thing. It's a funny anecdote about couples who are realizing they can't sleep together anymore. They got to sleep in either separate beds or separate rooms or separate parts of the house. If you have a partner that snores like a racehorse, whatever a racehorse is, sleep apnea is a thing. And again, I work in healthcare, so I'm seeing it every day, where I work with couples and I work with individuals and I work with people of all ages who are just snoring up a storm, so much so that the rafters are shaking. Get a sleep study. If you have sleep apnea, get a CPAP. I have a business partner who's got a CPAP. It saved her life. Sleep apnea, by the way, Joe Coy, the comedian, the Filipino comedian, does a great shtick on sleep apnea. And I forget which special it is, but look up Joe Coy sleep apnea, and it's just hilarious. And he talked about dating. He's dating and he's got to have this machine and this. He looks like the guy Bane from Batman. He's got this big thing, and that how it's kind of a mood killer. So he wouldn't have his dates sleep over for that reason. And anybody that's going to be with him is going to have to get over the fact that he's wearing his, basically hazmat suit at night. And he jokes. It's very, very funny. But the bottom line is, if you have sleep apnea, and because I was heavier, and I look at my family, if you lay on your back and you're heavy, the gravity of your tissues here are going to be such that you may snore more. And so, if you're a big snorer or you're partnered with somebody who snores, let them know. Get help for it. There's no reason you should suffer that way. Now, I know that in my married life, been together 25 years, there are times I will go and sleep on the couch, or I'll go into a guest room, or I'll go into my son's room to sleep if he's not there. Um, because sleep, and I didn't used to. I didn't used to be able to take that stand with my partner. My partner doesn't sleep much. He doesn't need to sleep much, and I do. So there you go. Sorry, it's not romantic. It's not love in the cottage, but your sleep is more important. Sorry, I'm just going to say it. And so if you've got pets or children, and I mean, we're not going to get in today to the little ones want to crawl into bed with you, parents. I know that's a thing, and I've worked with families about this issue. And I'm not going to go down the path because it could be a rabbit hole that we could spend hours on about what's the age when children should no longer sleep with their parents, and how do you get a child to not sleep with you when they've been sleeping with you? And that whole thing is a whole nother topic. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking of a one particular father who it just tortured him that they had slept with their little one the whole time. I don't think this kid ever was in a crib. I think this kid was in the bed with the parents, the whole thing. And the kid's now 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't remember. No, it wasn't 7. It wasn't that old. Let's say 4, 3, 4, something like that. And the kid's still in the bed, and the parents are not sleeping. The kid is, just spread eagled and just taking up the whole bed and moving and kicking the parents in the head and all that stuff. Love these creatures. And they came to me to help create a plan to get the kid to sleep in his own bed. And it wasn't going well. And the poor dad was the mom was actually shockingly totally fine that the kid could cry himself to sleep. The dad was tortured. So the dad kept saying we'd see each other weekly and how's it going? And this is the plan. And they didn't bring the kid because it wasn't the kid's problem, frankly. It was the parents' problem. And so the parents would come and we would do strategies for systematically weaning the child out of sleeping with the parents. And the dad just said, "I just tears me apart. I cannot stand to hear my son cry." And so the dad started sleeping in the car, in the garage, with the motor turned off, but would sleep in the car because he just could not. It just was torture. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But your sleep is pillar number 3, absolutely essential. It's yours. It's okay to take a stand with it. Pillar number 4, financial security. Okay, now this is a tough one, particularly now. And I'm going to tell you, I work with billionaires. I work with highly successful physicians, multi-millionaires. Money is a weird thing. And I've noticed that it doesn't matter how much you have. It doesn't matter. Well, I'm going to be careful here. Some of the most miserable people I've worked with are the wealthiest. Just going to say that. Some of the happiest times I've had in my life have been when I've been the poorest. I recall a time when I was modeling. Now, people think, oh, you're modeling, you were just rolling in dough. No, that is not the experience of a model, particularly the first few years. You're not making a lot of money. You're doing free things. You're doing free fashion shows. You're not making a lot of money. You're waiting on tables. You're bartending. People say, how could you have done all these things? Well, because I modeled and I bartended and I waited on tables and I taught music and I did this gig and that gig, and you put it together. And I think people are kind of more into that these days, having this gig economy where they've got all these side hustles and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, when you're a model, you're not rolling the dough. Very few models, just like very few actors. Say, well, I'm an actor. It's like, yeah, there's the 1%, that hit it big. Most don't ever. Most models never hit it big. And even when I hit it big, it wasn't that big. And, it wasn't big like, millions kind of thing. That I could support myself modeling for a couple years out of 5 was a big accomplishment. I'll just say that. And so I remember one December, it was December 4th. I was poor as a church mouse. I had been in Paris the whole fall. I barely made it. And the way it worked back then was the agency would front you money. If they wanted you, they would pay for your air ticket, they'd pay for your expenses, they would pay you a small stipend to front load to get you going because they realized that unless you were really established and you were Christy Brinkley like, or Iman or, I'm saying names you're not going to know, but very famous models, you needed financial support. And so the way it would work is they would find you where in whatever market. For me, they came to Chicago, they found me, they thought I looked good. They flew me there. Now they didn't pay me, by the way. This was a loan. It wasn't, we're paying you. It was we're going to take a chance on this guy we think he might work in this market. We're going to loan him a plane ticket and some housing and some food and a stipend and all that kind of stuff. I had a little bit of my own money, but together we put it together. And I really appreciated that. And I did pay them back eventually. That when you start working, then you start paying them back. It's kind of the way it worked, right? And I think it still works that way. I think the agencies still do that today. My point is, I'm sitting on a bus bench. I'm taking the bus to de Gaulle Airport to fly to Minneapolis. It's December 4th. I don't know why I remember that it was December 4th. I am sitting there. I've got my big, funky suitcase that's just falling apart, and I'm going home. And I have spent the fall as a high fashion model in Paris. I am flat broke. I don't think I had $20 or 20 francs or whatever the currency was at the time. And I'm just sitting there, the sun is shining, and I am just happy as a clam. Broke, 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 broke. Money didn't matter. I was a high fashion model, right? And then you can fast forward to the times in your life when you've had more money or you've got the big paycheck or the big payday. And I've had big paydays and I've had more money and I make more money. And then you have your own business and then you're an entrepreneur and blah, 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 all that stuff that we do. And I'm going to say that even though financial security is one of the pillars, it's not about the amount of money. It's not that like you have to have $1 million to be, because I'm going to tell you, I have the experience of working with people who are extraordinarily wealthy. I mean, billionaires with a B, and they are some of the most miserable people I have ever encountered. Now, Abraham Maslow, just to throw a source in here, Abraham Maslow was a psychologist, psychiatrist person of the last century. And he wrote a number of psychological theories, one of which is the hierarchy of needs. And you've heard me talk about that. You've heard me talk about his stages of learning. I use him a lot of times. And if you've studied psychology at all, you have heard of Abraham Maslow. He said something that was very provocative. And people don't know this, but he said that, and just to run through, there's a pyramid and there's a hierarchy of needs, and we have to meet our survival needs and safety needs first. Then we go about other higher ordered needs, and that the pinnacle of the pyramid is self-actualization when we get enlightened and we are totally happy beyond belief. Now, what people don't know is at the end of his life, he publicly published an article in the Journal of the American Psychiatric Association, 1984, if you must know. And he came out to say that he disavowed his own, and theorists don't do this, by the way, so I really have a lot of respect for him. Theorists are selling books, they're selling theories. And if you go to a conference, and I'm sure it's like this in other disciplines, in my discipline, in psychology, psychiatry, social work, they are telling you, you got to buy my book and do my theory and do my therapy, and mine's the only way. And I would imagine it's like that in cardiology and endocrinology. I don't know. And so in my discipline, they're all about my way's the way, my way's the only way, buy my book. Abraham Maslow, at the end of his life, actually came out and said, my whole hierarchy of needs was wrong. And let me tell you why. He said that his theory was that once you meet your survival needs, meaning food, clothing, shelter, you're able to meet food, clothing, shelter. The rest of them are in order of, love and belonging and fun and freedom and all these other things, all the way up to self-actualization. What he said was that, and I quote, and I remember this, and I'm going to say it to you pretty much word verbatim, but what he said, I have traveled the world and I have been to places where people were not meeting their basic needs for food, clothing, and shelter. And they were among the most enlightened people I had ever met, places like India. Now, he used India as an example. He said, I've been to India, paraphrasing now, and they are living in the worst poverty known to humans. And they were some of the most happy, enlightened, and free spirited people I've ever met. India. Then I've been to America. He was not American, by the way. He says, then I've been to America. And he said, and I quote, America with more riches than the world has ever known, more riches than the pharaohs. This is exact words now. More riches than even the pharaohs. And the people in America are often miserable or unhappy. And he didn't say that exactly, but he said basically people in America. He's not generalizing that the entire nation is unhappy, but what he's saying is that money, and it's kind of a cliche, money doesn't buy happiness. I'd like to try, right? We always say, well, give me $1 million, I'll try. But the reality is from a human consciousness point of view and from a vibrational point of view, my mom always used to say, and I don't like this either, money is the root of all evil, or money is filthy lucre, or money, I don't even know, all that, those cliches. Money is energy. And this pillar the reason I'm talking about financial security is that you are responsible for managing your energy and the energy around money. And when we look at self-improvement, we look at diet, nutrition, and exercise and all that stuff. Financial health, fiscal well-being it's not about the amount of money in the bank account. I'm sorry, it's just not. Because as I like to say, I've been rich, I've been poor. I prefer rich. And my happiness, and the reason I'm talking about this now is that I have a point of view that many of you don't have. I'm in the latter third of my life in this incarnation. And you can say, well, it's easy for you, you've made it. Well, I don't think I've made it. I don't, I'm, and again, I'm not going to go into the details, but I run businesses. I run businesses that are in low income mental health. I had I'm just trying to think. I want to protect confidentiality. I had someone come to me to say, gee, we have 30 employees and we're struggling with cash flow. It's COVID and all the stuff that happened at COVID, and just how do you run a business and how do you keep it going when with COVID? That's just an example, right? And I said, well, you have 30, we have more, and who I'm hiring are doctors and therapists and people that have really high salaries. So I get it. We just had a conversation today. Can I share it? I'm going to share it. It's public. So we are a low income Medicaid, VA, Medicare provider. We didn't start this clinic to get rich, right? That wasn't the point. The point was we want to give back to the community. We're giving back to the community. So we're having a thing, and this hasn't happened. I'm very blessed. The group we have, they're really good, and the regulations are astonishing. The kind of the things that we have to meet, the regulatory stuff that we're under, in terms of the documentation and the medications and all that kind of stuff. It's code, and I'm sure it's like this in many businesses where you've got all these things, rules. You got to meet the rules. Well, there's been a thing just recently with a couple of clinicians where they're just not finishing their charts. And it happens. Doctors are notorious for not, for having to be chased down to sign their charts. It's a thing. It's always been a thing. And I realize that we have, at Heads Up, have been so fortunate that it's never been a thing. People do their work, they see their patients, they sign their charts. For me as a clinical director, it's a thing of beauty. I don't have to, well, all of a sudden we had a couple over the last month that were like 40 charts behind. And I was like, okay, well, me, and I don't sign the checks, by the way. I don't write the checks. I don't manage the money. Thank God you don't want me managing the money. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, okay, well, let me, I'll get after them. Well, what I didn't realize is that we cannot bill. Listen carefully. This is just business thing. We can't bill for a session that isn't, the chart's not finished. Meaning our system, unless the chart note is done, the way it's set up is that the clinician writes the note, patient, whatever they say in the note, they sign it, they finish it, then it goes to billing. Well, apparently there were a few of them that had stacks of, and because we're busy like crazy. I get it. I get that they want to go home at the end of the day and that maybe they're getting behind. I totally understand. And what I didn't realize, I guess I kind of knew secretly, that's a cash flow issue. And we're not rolling, this is low income mental health. We're not getting paid a whole lot of money here. And so it was starting to impact things where we couldn't actually bill We couldn't bill for the sessions that were being delivered because the clinicians had not signed their charts. So, and now we've nipped it in the bud. It's a done deal. But that's how tight it is. Now, this is all in the financial security realm for you. What are your karmic patterns around money? What are your karmic patterns? Are you a spender? Or are you a saver? Are you a hoarder? Are you what kind of look at that? I'm a spender. I think saving is boring. And I'm not joking with you. If I have the choice of saving some money or going and having some fun experience, I'm going to choose the experience. Now that has implications for me, right? I'm 65. I'm on Medicare, right? I have a couple of retirement accounts from a hospital and from another one for two different companies. And I mean, I'm not going to go into the details, but I'm looking at the next 30 years of my life. How do I create enough financial security so that I can not have to worry about money for the next 30 years? Health, and that my health will hold out. Anyway, you're responsible for your financial security. And it's not necessarily about how much money. It's about how much do you need, how much do you save. I am not Dave Ramsey, and I don't know if you know Dave Ramsey, but he's a YouTuber, he's an internet guy, he's a financial guy. And oh, he's tough. I mean, he just takes stands with people about their spending, and everybody should have, no one should have any debt whatsoever. You should have an emergency fund of 6 months. You should have millions in the bank. You should not own a car. You should own a car outright. You should never lease a car. And he's got some very foundational rules. In fact, he's written books and he sells books about his formula. And so look up Dave Ramsey. It's Ramsay, I think. And he's a good guy. He's got some really sound financial principles, but he's like a drill sergeant when it comes to the money thing. About, if you're going to Starbucks, knock it off. If you've got debt, you have no business going to Starbucks. And he had a couple on there. I don't remember the exact details of the couple, but people call in. He's got a show, and they call in for advice, for financial advice. And they were saying, well, we have this house and we have this student loan debt and we have this and that and the other thing and that, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, I need you to listen carefully. You guys are not going to see the inside of a restaurant for the next 2 years, meaning you're not eating out, you're not, no Starbucks, no. And you can take him with a grain of salt, but he is committed to really helping people take control of their finances and not be in debt, not have a lot of debt and that kind of stuff. Now, Robert Kiyosaki, who I also know very well, who I have a friend who actually has worked for him, will say, as an entrepreneur, debt is your friend. Talk to Donald Trump about debt. And I'm not, this isn't political at all. Donald Trump has made a career out of leveraging debt. I don't know about Elon Musk. I heard a thing that yesterday about, because he's got so much money and so much resources, that debt is actually a great tool because you can leverage stock options. And I don't really understand it. I'm very simple when it comes to money. I spend it. I like it. I enjoy it, but I'm certainly not the expert on financial things. My point to you is about, what are the state of your finances? What steps can you take to feel more empowered around taking control of your money and how that goes? So that's the pillar number, what was that, 4? And I'm going to go to pillar number 5, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Pillar number 5 is, I'm going to call purpose. What's your purpose? And I know that's so ambiguous. I apologize. It's very ambiguous. Why did you incarnate? Why are you here? Now, some people, I did have a billionaire once where I said, what if anything is more important than money? And he looked at me like I was crazy. He said, there is nothing more important than money. My whole life has been about money. Well, he had gotten to a point where he had achieved everything he ever wanted financially. And it was now, he was, poor thing, was 37 years old. And he was like, it's all about money. My whole life has been about money. He was 37, poor thing. And there was no more money to make. He'd made it all. He had it all. He had every experience, every piece of machinery, the jet, the cars, the houses, all that stuff. And so then we got to work together with what was his purpose. Why did he? And when I say, why did you incarnate? What gives your life joy? What brings you joy? Now, for him, it was having kids. It was creating a philanthropic foundation. It was other things, so part of it was giving away. J.K. Rowling, by the way, who wrote the Harry Potter series, came from abject poverty, billionaire, gave it all away. I don't know what her net worth is today, but I don't think it's $1 billion. She gave it all away because that was her purpose. I am not suggesting any of that. I am suggesting you at least have some conversations with yourself about what am I about? And these are some really provocative questions that I'm going to leave you with today. What brings you joy? What brings you joy? And what I'd suggest you do as a result of this YouTube Live is just write that question out and begin to brainstorm answers to that. What brings you joy? Second question. What is your life calling you to be? What is your life calling you to be? Now, I know they're very broad and they're very ambiguous, purposefully. These are not linear questions. These are not questions that you're going to find in a book. These are very personal, soul searching kinds of questions that you can sit with and really get quiet and go, okay, what's my purpose? Wherever you are on the lifespan, right? Now, I don't ask 4-year-olds, but actually, 4-year-olds are really clear about their purpose. Most 10 and 12-year-olds I work with are clear about their purpose. It's we get older and we get confused. Well, it's just to make money, or it's just to please others, or it's just to, have a house or whatever. And I am wrestling with, greater sense of purpose now. Some of you know me really well and are shocked that I'm doing social media. You're shocked that I've got a nutritionist and a trainer. You're shocked that I'm going to the gym. People ask me, do I think people can change? And I pause and I smile. I said, well, my work would be pretty difficult if I didn't think people could change. The thing that's happening as we get older is, like anything else, we get into our ruts, we get into our patterns. And I am not suggesting that there's anything wrong with you, but to the extent you would like to raise your vibration, if you pay attention to these 5 pillars, right? I'm just going to go over them one more time, then we'll conclude. First one is exercise. How do you move your body? Second one is nutrition. What do you put in your body? Third one is sleep. How do you take care of your body and get the rest you need? Fourth one is financial security, right? Not about how much money, but about, do you have to worry about money? Can you have the safety and the freedom to just know that you're taken care of by virtue of what you do? And finally, fifth, what is your purpose? Particularly as we age, it's important to keep those things, and they're different than they were in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. And so I have evolved to have a new, renewed sense of purpose to help you all get aligned with yourselves and figure out what's really important to you, not because anyone else says so. And you get to have that. You get to have whatever you want. You get to be whoever you are. And anymore, it's really true. As I get older, I don't really care as much about what people think. For a long time, I didn't want to put things on social media because I know there are trolls out there. And knock on wood, I haven't gotten a lot of negative feedback to any of the stuff I'm posting. And I'm posting a lot. I'm posting more than I ever have. And Josh is helping me with that. And Indy Lee is helping me with that. And Michelle is helping with that. You all are helping me with that. Um, and I've also seen some YouTubers with hundreds of thousands of followers where they like address the comments, because people get real snarky in the comments about whatever. And I follow weight loss and health and New Age and Buddhism and all different kinds of things. Like I said, we're all into different things, and I think it's great that we can all do this together and that we have a forum like this where we can have fun together. Now, I go to Hawaii a week from tomorrow. We're going to do a live next Friday. I'm going to try to keep these going every week, but bear with me if I'm in class or if I can't get away to do a live at exactly the right time. Well, I'm going to record a lot of stuff in Hawaii. So I'm going to be their 70th Huna workshops. We've been doing the Huna intensive workshop in Kona for 35 years. I have not been there for 35 years. I've been there about 20 or so. 17, 18, something like that. And so look for them, but I'll be recording other things and continue this conversation. And so I appreciate you all. And so I wish you all the best for a lovely weekend, and we'll see you soon.